like to see his school do to help him and his classmates succeed?
So I have a 4-year-old son named Ellington, and he just, so when I started working on this book, it was just about the time that he was born. The first page of the book talks about his birth. And so during the years that I was working on this, was sort of his 0 to 3 years, it was just as he was going through a lot of this early childhood brain development that I was writing about. And so I've thought a lot over the years about how his growth connects with the things I was writing about in the book. And he just started pre-kindergarten. I live in a town called Montauk at the end of Long Island. And there's one school in Montauk. So that's the school that he just started. It's a pre-K through 8 school, so he'll be there for 10 years. So it's a pretty daunting moment for me. I think more daunting for me than for him. That first day of school, just realizing that this was the beginning of his official education. And so I thought a lot about what I hope that school gives him. And I guess I would say there are 2 things that I think about. One is that I hope that they're able to find a balance between these 2 sets of skills. I do actually care whether he learns to read and count and things like that. I do think that those cognitive skills matter a lot. And so I hope that those are things that he learns in school as well as out of school. But I do think, but I do care very much as well about this other set of skills. And I think right now, a lot of schools don't have the infrastructure in place to figure out how to help develop them. And I think a lot of schools, especially public schools, are under pressure from the federal government on down to focus increasingly on test scores. The way that our federal education policy has gone over the past 12, 13 years has been very much focused on giving all of the incentives to teachers and to schools and to school systems around those test scores. And so I hope that they can resist that a little bit and think a bit more broadly. The one other thing that I'll say that I haven't quite figured out my thinking about, but in terms of thinking about what I hope that school gives him, is that, so as it's a public school, Montauk is a pretty well-off town, but there is a sizable Hispanic population and low-income population, and those 2 groups mostly overlap. So there are some kids in his class who don't speak English yet, really at all. And Ellington speaks English a lot. And so already, here's the 4-year-olds, and already, I know, knowing the research that I've spent a lot of time looking at, I know that those kids have challenges that Ellington doesn't have, and without a lot of support early on, I think it's going to be difficult for them to keep up with Ellington. And so this is sort of a new idea for me. The first 4 years as I've been thinking about him, in daycare and in nursery school and at home with me and his mother, I've been thinking just about how I help Ellington do better and how to help him develop the skills that he needs. But now, seeing him in this class of the kids from our town, all the 4-year-olds from Montauk, I feel like I want to make sure that all these kids succeed. And that his success, I think, without their success, his success, which I feel more confident about, will not mean as much somehow. And I think it will diminish his success somehow. So I haven't figured out exactly how to deal with that feeling and how to influence that. And I think that that's a lot of what people in Brooklyn are thinking about as well. How to, through steps to success, how to improve the outcomes for every child in the city. There are some kids here, just as there are some kids in Montauk, who are on a very clear path to success, and others who aren't. And I think that if all of our schools could do a better job of leveling that playing field and helping the kids who are behind to catch up,